Hello, welcome to Psyched Minds. We are reading It Didn't Start With You by Mark Wallen. How inherited family trauma shapes who we are and how to end the cycle. Chapter 13, The Core Language of Success. One must have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. Friedrich Nietzsche. Thus spoke Zarathustra. Many self help books promise us financial success and fulfillment if only we follow the author's prescribed plan. Strategies such as developing effective habits, expanding your social network, visualizing your future success, and repeating money mantras are touted as ways to prosper. But what about those of us who never seem to achieve our goals no matter what we do or which plan we follow? When our attempt at success seems to collide with roadblocks and dead ends, exploring family history can be an important direction to pursue. Unresolved traumatic events in our family can hinder how success flows to us and how well we are able to receive it. Dynamics ranging from sharing an unconscious identification with someone in the family who failed or was cheated or cheated someone to receiving an undeserved inheritance to experiencing the trauma of an early separation from a mother can all affect our ability to feel secure and financially vital. At the end of this chapter, you will find a list of questions that can help you discern if there's a trauma in your family history standing in your way. You will also learn how to extract the core language around your own fears or failures and success, and how to get yourself back on track. First, let's look at how others have used the core language approach to free themselves to become more successful. Atoning for wrongdoings in the family history. Ben was a week away from closing the door on his law practice after a series of attempts to get his practice into the black hat failed. He was giving up for good. I can't stem to get beyond the level of just surviving, he told me. I barely have enough. Ben's core language? I am just surviving. I barely have enough. Ben described a pattern that he had experienced his entire adult life of having many irons in the fire, of having several big time clients on the line, and then suddenly the bottom falls out from beneath him. It's like I can never hold on to anything I earn. I'm barely surviving. When you listen carefully to Ben's core language, perhaps you can hear the cry of someone else, someone impoverished, someone who was barely surviving, someone who barely had enough. The question, of course, is who? In Ben's family, the core language trail led straight to the root of the problem. Ben recalled his childhood visit to Florida. Ben's grandfather owned and operated a successful citrus plantation in central Florida from 1930 through the early 1970s. The family had built its fortune on the sweat and toil of migrant workers who were paid next to nothing, barely surviving on meager wages. Unable to cover their debts, they lived in squalor. While Ben's grandfather's family prospered and lived in a luxurious mansion, the farm workers lived crowded together in dilapidated shacks. Ben remembered playing as a little boy with their children. He remembered the guilty feeling of his having more and their having less. Years later, Ben's father inherited grandfather's estate but eventually lost it due to a series of bad investments and business deals gone wrong. Ben ended up inheriting nothing. Adversity only continued for Ben, who, since passing the bar, had fallen behind on bills he couldn't pay and loans he owed the bank. It wasn't until Ben linked this current situation to the history in his family that things began to make sense. He could see how his family had prospered while the migrant workers were barely surviving. The disadvantage they incurred was directly related to the advantage Ben's family gained. Unconsciously aligned with the workers, Ben had been reenacting their misery. It was as though, by living impoverished, Ben could somehow balance his father's debt, a debt that didn't even belong to him. It was time to break the pattern. During our session together, Ben closed his eyes and envisioned the children he used to play with and their families standing in front of him. In his inner image, they appeared dejected and impoverished. He visualized his grandfather, who had passed away when Ben was 12, standing with them, apologizing to them for not paying them what they deserved. Ben imagined telling his grandfather that he could no longer atone for the unfair treatment of the workers by struggling in his law practice, and that he would leave the responsibility for the workers' suffering with him. He visualized his grandfather taking responsibility and making amends. He imagined his grandfather saying, "This has nothing to do with you, Ben. It's my debt to pay, not yours." Ben pictured the children he used to play with smiling at him. He could feel that they harbored no ill feelings towards him. Ben later tried to contact one of the migrant families but could find no trace of their whereabouts. Instead, he made a donation to a charity that focused on the health care needs of migrant families as a gesture of goodwill from his family to theirs. Ben kept the doors to his law practice open. He took the case pro bono of a worker who had been mistreated by a large company. Within weeks, several new well-paying accounts came his way. Within 6 months, his practice was thriving. When we look back into the family for the source of a financial issue, we have to ask, are we unconsciously attempting to balance the actions of someone who came before us? Many of us unwittingly perpetuate the suffering and misfortunes of the past. Ben appeared to be doing it, and so did Loretta. More than anything, Loretta wanted to own her own business. For 30 years, her sweat and hard labor, as she had put it, had been lining the pockets of the owner of the company she worked for. Yet every time an opportunity came her way to start her own venture or to develop one of her own business ideas, she would balk. Something keeps me from moving forward. It's as though there's something lurking beneath the surface that holds me back from taking the next step, she said. It's as though I don't deserve to have what I get. Loretta's core language: I don't deserve to have what I get. If we follow Loretta's core language to lead us into the past, three bridging questions come to mind. Who didn't deserve what they got? Who was held back? And who couldn't move forward? Again, the answer wasn't far away. In her will, Loretta's grandmother had left the profitable family farm to Loretta's father and left nothing to Loretta's father's 4 brothers and sisters. Her father went on to flourish and his siblings went on to struggle. They all shared a distant relationship after that. Loretta's father had gained an unfair advantage over his siblings. As an adult, Loretta, the only child of her father and mother, struggled financially just as her aunts and uncles had, turning the family switch from advantage to disadvantage. As though to balance the ill-gotten gains from her father had received from the grandmother, Loretta unconsciously held herself back from success. Once she realized that she had involuntarily been attempting to balance a wrong with another wrong, she was able to take the risks necessary to become an entrepreneur. For Loretta, her core language led her back to the family farm, to the undeserved gain in her family history. For Ben, the path was similar, yet not everyone who wishes to venture forward can locate a family event so clearly marked. For John Paul, the family event that hindered him was less conspicuous. Separated from mother, disconnected from others. Jean Paul also wanted to advance his career, although his actions, as we will soon see, demonstrated the contrary. By following his core language map, however, he discovered a path lined with clues and insights. For more than 20 years, John Paul had lingered in the same dead-end job, watching others beneath his skill level advance to positions above him. He was quiet and preferred to stay hidden in the nooks and crannies of office conversation and social interactions. He lived unnoticed, coasting just below the radar of upper management. Because he was never called upon for special assignment, he was never at risk of failure. The thought of asking for a leadership role, role accompanied by the stress of being watched and judged by others, was overwhelming. It was just too dangerous. I could get rejected, he said, or make the wrong move and lose everything. John Paul's core language: I could get rejected, I could make the wrong move and lose everything. In John Paul's case, we didn't need to travel back to a previous generation. We only had to explore a single event in his early childhood, a break in the bond with his mother. Many of us have experienced an interruption in the bonding process with our mothers. And like John Paul, we never make the connection with how it affects us as adults. John Paul had stopped trusting his mother's love and support early in his childhood. As a result, he went through much of his life cautious in his relationships with others. Without feeling the support of his mother behind him, John Paul experienced insecurity and hesitation whenever he stepped towards the things he most desired. If I say or do the wrong thing, he feared, I will be rejected or sent away. John Paul did not know how to link his fear of rejection to his having been separated from his mother. At 3, he was sent to stay with his grandmother for the summer while his parents went on vacation. John Paul's grandparents lived on a farm, and although they provided him with what he needed physically, he was often left in a playpen outside while the adults tended to their chores. Halfway through the summer, Grandpa became ill, which further divided Grandma's attention and energy. With Grandma so overwhelmed, John Paul quickly learned that he could avoid her irritation if he stayed quiet and out of the way. When his parents returned, John Paul had no way to communicating to them how frightened his experience had been. He wanted to run towards his parents, but something held him back. His parents only saw that he didn't like to be held or cuddled anymore and concluded that he had become more independent in their absence. Inside, however, a contradictory experience was unfolding. His autonomy merely veiled a reluctance to trust that his mother would be there for him. Jean Paul didn't realize that, in an attempt to protect himself from any further disappointment, he had shut down his own vitality. He had dimmed his own light. What lurked behind the facade of independence was simply an association between getting close and getting hurt. This imprint became a blueprint for much of his adult life. Fearing rejection and loss, he went to extreme measures to avoid the very connections he secretly craved. For John Paul, taking risk was not an option. The wrong risk could mean that he would once again lose everything. When our early bond with our mother is interrupted, a cloud of fear and distrust can infuse our life experiences. Another client, Elizabeth, lived under such a cloud. She, like John Paul, had been separated from her mother. When she was 7 months old, she spent 2 weeks in the hospital away from her mother's care. A week-long hospital stay at 3 years old and another at 7 years old followed, repeating the separation. Elizabeth described her current job as a data entry specialist in an office with 30 other employees as a living hell. She could go on an entire day without speaking a word to anyone. The distance between her and her office mates had become so extreme that she began disengaging from conversations altogether, relying instead on yes and no answers to questions aimed at her way. If I say the wrong thing, she told me, I will be rejected, so I hold myself back. She described obsessive thoughts and fears that she would replay in her mind at night. After a conversation, I go over it again and again in my mind. Did I say the wrong thing? Did I offend somebody? Should I have said something differently? Or I'll text my friend repeatedly. Why aren't you answering me? Are you mad at me? Seeing her office mates talking together exacerbated her fears. She worried that they were talking about her. Ultimately, she worried that she was expendable and would be rejected or fired, or that she would be ignored or left out of the group. Any of these would bring about the feelings of aloneness and helplessness she felt in the hospital as a little girl. Elizabeth, like John Paul, did not have the awareness to connect these feelings to the early separation from her mother during her hospital stays. Elizabeth's core language: they will reject me, I will be left out, I won't fit in, I will be all alone. Like John Paul, Elizabeth carried a fear of being left or abandoned. Similarly, her resolution came in making the link between her cautious approach to life and her early break from the source of life, her mother. Simply by making this connection, she could begin to reverse the conclusion she had made as a child that had unconsciously limited her life. Both John Paul and Elizabeth began to heal the inner image they carried of their mothers as not being supportive and nurturing. In recognizing the parallel between their limited lives and limiting images they held, each was more open to looking for what was life-giving in their mothers. For John Paul, it began with remembering how excited his mother would become when he would draw her pictures. For Elizabeth, it was found in realizing that her mother had not shut her down. It was Elizabeth who, during the hospital stays, had shut down towards her mother. Elizabeth could now see that she had thwarted her mother's numerous attempts to love her. Her mother, steadfast and supportive, had given her more than she realized. Once Elizabeth understood the impact of the separation, she felt hopeful. For the first time, she could see an avenue that finally led somewhere. Her core language merely reflected the words of a little child who was left all alone and felt abandoned by her mother. For the first time, she could see a light at the end of a tunnel. By following the core language trail, she was on her way to the other side. Family dynamics that can affect success. Not only can our financial vitality be hindered by breaks in the bond with our mother, as Elizabeth and John Paul, or by unjust business dealings and unfair inheritances, as with Ben and Loretta, a host of other dynamics can affect our relationship with success. In the pages that follow, we will explore several family influences that can limit us, each act as a silent force that can affect consecutive generations. Any one of these dynamics can derail the forward progress we attempt to make. Rejecting a parent can impede our success. Regardless of the story we tell about our parents, how good or bad they were, how hurt we feel by what they did or didn't do, when we reject them, we can limit our opportunities. Our relationship with our parent is, in many ways, a metaphor for life. Those who feel that they have received a lot from their parent often feel that they receive a lot from life. Feeling that we got only a small amount from our parent can translate into the feeling that we get only a small amount from life. Shortchanged by our parent, we can feel shortchanged by life. When we reject our mother, we can unconsciously distance ourselves from the comforts of life. Security, safety, nurturance, care, all the elements associated with mothering can feel missing in our lives. No matter how much we have, it can feel like we never have enough. The effects of rejecting a father can be equally limiting. A man, for instance, who rejects his father can experience himself as uncomfortable or self-conscious in the company of other men. He can even find himself hesitant or reluctant to embrace the responsibilities associated with being a father, regardless of whether or not his father was the family provider or the family failure. Unfinished business with either parent can cloud our work life as well as our social life. By consciously replaying unresolved family dynamics, we are likely to create conflicts instead of authentic connections. With old projections aimed at our bosses or co-workers, it can be difficult to flourish. We can repeat our rejected parents' life experience. When we reject a parent, a strange symmetry linking us can occur. We can unwittingly walk in his or her shoes. What we judge as unacceptable or intolerable in our parent can reappear in our life. It can feel like an unwelcomed inheritance. We assume the opposite is true. The more we distance ourselves from our parents, the less likely we are to live similar lives and repeat their challenges. However, the converse appears to be true. When we distance ourselves from them, we tend to become more like them and often lead lives similar to theirs. If, for example, our father is rejected for being an alcoholic or a failure, we can drink or feel just like him. By unconsciously following in his footsteps, we establish a covert bond with him by sharing what is perceived as negative in him. Kevin's secret bond with his father. At 36, Kevin was proud of the fact that he held an upper management position in a top 10 internet company. However, he was worried that his drinking problems would destroy his life. "I'm afraid I'm going to have a breakdown, fail, and lose everything I have created." Kevin's core language: "I will have a breakdown, fail, and lose everything I have created." In his family, Kevin's father had done exactly that. A successful Boston attorney, Kevin's father had become an alcoholic, lost his job, and then lost his health. The family eventually lost their home. At that point, when Kevin was 10, his mother moved him away from his father. Kevin often heard her say, "Your father is no good. He destroyed our lives." Kevin rarely saw his father after that. His father died early of liver failure. Kevin was 25 at that time. That's when his own drinking began to take off. Kevin remembered hearing about an incident that occurred when his father was 12. He and his 9-year-old brother were climbing on an abandoned barn when the younger brother fell through the roof and died. Kevin's father was blamed for his death. Kevin now understood how his father, feeling responsible for his brother's death, might not have been able to sustain living a full life when his brother did not have a full life to live. In a flash of insight during our session together, Kevin connected his own self destruction similarly. He realized that by dying early, he would only further the devastation in his family. Understanding the burden his father carried, Kevin could feel a profound love for him. It filled him with compassion. He now felt sorry for pushing him away a long time ago. Just by making the connection, Kevin was able to make major life changes. He stopped drinking, and for the first time, he felt supported by an image of his father at his back. He now felt excited about the life that lay ahead of him. An unconscious loyalty to failure. We don't need to reject our parents to repeat their misfortunes. Sometimes we share an unconscious bond that keeps us mired in a similar experience. Despite our best efforts to succeed, we can find ourselves unable to achieve more in our life than they achieved in theirs. If, for example, our father failed in business and wasn't able to provide financially for the family, we might unconsciously join him by feeling in the same way. Ensnared in a hidden loyalty, we might sabotage our success, making sure that we don't surpass him. But another client of mine was the weakest link on the sales team. He made only enough money to scrape by. When I asked him about his father, he explained that his father had only an 8th grade education and had lived a very simple life. When asked what might happen were he to have lots of money, Bart said he feared he would lose the simplicity of life, a virtue that his father extolled. Having money would devalue my life and make my life complicated. The essentials would be lost. Bart's code language, having money would devalue my life. Bart appeared to be emulating his father's value. Once he realized that he carried an unconscious loyalty to not becoming more successful than his father, Bart began to reassess his financial goals. It became clear to Bart that limiting his success was the opposite of what his father really wanted for him. Bart picked up the pace. Within 8 months, his failed production doubled. We can be unconsciously bound with other family members beyond our parents and find ourselves inadvertently connected with an aunt, uncle, grandparent, or other family member. That was the case with Paul. He came to see me after being passed over for promotions time again. Although it was never mentioned directly to him, his unkempt appearance and the fact that his clothes were shabby and dirty may have been contributory. He didn't look the part of a leader. Paul remembered how embarrassed he was as a small boy by his grandfather, the town loser. He and his friends would make fun of the grandfather who could be found scavenging through garbage cans for food or sleeping afternoons in the town movie theater. Now, as an adult, Paul was repeating aspects of his grandfather's life by dressing like him, relieving his fears. Paul's core language: I'm not good enough. They don't want me. We looked back at the family history. Paul's grandfather had been sent to living in an orphanage at the age of 4 when his parents fell on hard times and couldn't provide for him. Paul now understood that it was his grandfather who was rightful owner of the feelings of not being wanted and not being good enough. Paul had merely been continuing them. Recognizing his unconscious connection to his grandfather, Paul was able to break free. He was now able to continue with his grandfather in the compassion he felt for him. Instead of having to dress like him, understanding the identification, Paul immediately began to make healthy choices around his physical appearance. The legacy of unfinished business. Often when a beloved family member of the family dies early and is perceived not to have completed his or her life, someone later in the life in silent collusion can fail to complete something of great importance. The later family member can stop short of accomplishing a major task in life, such as finishing a degree or closing a deal that would bring success. Procrastination can also stem from being connected to a family member's early death. Richard sought to understand why he repeated certain patterns in his life. A brilliant aeronautical engineer, he had been responsible for some of the major advancement in aviation, but had not stepped forward to take the credit. Someone else had even patented the work that belonged to him. Although he felt cheated, he blamed only himself. I don't take risks that will bring me success, he said. I never get recognized for my accomplishments. Richard's core language: I never get recognized. A parallel experience lived in Richard's family system. His older brother died stillborn. Nobody in the family ever talked about his brother or his death. In loyalty to his brother, who wasn't seen or recognized, Richard also lived without recognition. Understanding this influence, Richard applied for a patent for his new invention in what he called his last chance. He took a huge step towards life, and life took an equally huge step towards him. Richard received the patent, and his invention became an integral part of the aviation industry. While he can live unrecognized or unseen like a family member who dies early, who can also live restricted or limited out of loyalty to a family member with a mental, physical, or emotional challenge, loyal to a sibling, aunt, uncle, parent, or grandparent whose life we perceive as restricted in some way, we can unconsciously restrict our lives similarly and limit our own achievements. Past poverty can dim present prosperity. Sometimes we share an unconscious allegiance with ancestors who lived in poverty and had difficulty providing for themselves and their children. Perhaps war, famine, or persecution forced them to leave their homeland and their belongings in order to make a fresh start in another part of the world. If our ancestors experienced great hardship, we can continue their suffering without realizing we are doing so, and our attempts at living an abundant life can be thwarted. It can be difficult to have more than they had. Often, a simple ritual that honors our family member who struggled and the country or culture they left behind ground us so that we can take advantage of the new life we have received from their effort. Simply by acknowledging what lives on in us from the old, what we bring forward from our country or culture seems to give us an inherent permission to begin life anew. Beyond that, when we are grateful to the new country for sheltering us and offering us new opportunities for success, we are further grounded. Even beyond that, when we find a way to give something back, paying taxes, honoring the law, doing charity work, serving the country in some way that balances the advantages our family gained, we seem to more easily reap the benefits that the new home provides for us. Personal guilt can suppress success. Sometimes we have personally taken advantage of people or hurt them in a way that has created significant suffering. Maybe we acquired an undeserved sum of money through manipulation or subterfuge, such as by marrying for wealth or embezzling from the company we work for. When such an event takes place, we often cannot hold on to this financial gain, regardless of whether we feel guilty or not, or whether we consider the consequences of our action or not. We and or our children can live meager lives to balance the harm we have done. All in all, the consequences of our action, the effects of unresolved family traumas, our relationship with our parents, and entanglements with members of our family system who suffered can all be obstacles that stand in the way of our success. Once we make the link to the past and integrate what remains out of balance in the present, we have taken a crucial step. When everyone and everything is held with respectful consideration, the unfinished business from the past can remain in the past, allowing us to move forward with more freedom and financial ease. 20 success questions. Here are 20 success questions to consider when exploring how family history can influence your success. 1. Did you have a challenging relationship with your mother? Revisit your core descriptors in Chapter 7. Second, did you have a challenging relationship with your father? Revisit your core descriptors in Chapter 7. Third, were your parents successful at what they did for a living? Fourth, did a parent fail in providing for the family? Fifth, did your parents separate when you were young? Sixth, what was your mother's attitude towards your father? Seventh, what was your father's attitude towards your mother? Eighth, when you were young, did you experience a physical or emotional separation from your mother? Ninth, did your mother, father, or a grandparent die young? 10th, did you, your parent, or your grandparents have any sibling who died young? 11. Did you or anyone in your family gain significantly at someone else's expense? 12. Was anyone cheated out of an inheritance? 13. Did anyone inherit or acquire wealth unjustly? 14th. Did anyone in your family go bankrupt? lose the family wealth, or cause the family to experience financial difficulty. 15. Did anyone outside your family cause your family to experience financial difficulty? 16. Was anyone rejected for being a failure, a loser, a gambler, etc.? 17th. Do you have impoverished ancestors? 18th. Did you or your parent emigrate? 19th. Were your family members forced to flee or driven out of their homeland? 20. Did you or anyone else in your family hurt, cheat, or take advantage of someone? These were the questions, and that brings us to the end of chapter 13. We will begin with chapter 14 in the next reading. If you have any questions, any recommendations, any kind of feedback, criticisms, anything at all, you are welcome to comment in the comment section of the video you're viewing or in the community section of YouTube channel. Bye bye. Keep reading and do subscribe, like, share. Bye.